my god, I'm gonna cry. This is literally my worst nightmare. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be filming a review and first impressions on the very controversial Subculture palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This palette has definitely had its share of a mess during its release. First, they had it leaked out by some outside source, which really sucks that somebody would not let Anastasia and Norvina release it themselves. They leaked it before they even got to it, and then on top of that, there's been some pretty nasty and upset reviews on this palette thus far. Obviously, I don't know yet. I might like it. I'm going into this completely unbiased. Honestly, I really do want to like it because I did spend my money on this. It wasn't sent to me, so I do want it to work. And I've always raved about Anastasia palettes in the past. I have two of the other ones right here. The other two palettes that I have from Anastasia is the Modern Renaissance and the Master by Mario palette, and I love both of these palettes so much. I use them all the time, and the pigmentation's awesome. There isn't much fallout in them, there isn't much pickup on the palette, and I'm definitely one of those people that is very light-handed, first of all, and second of all, I wipe down my palettes all the time in the inside because I just hate when like powder gets all the way in it. I'm just like weird. But what people are saying about this palette is definitely kind of my worst nightmare, so I'm a little bit afraid. But again, I'm going into this with an open mind because I do really want it to work, and I think the shades inside of it are so stunning. But just a quick note of the exterior of the packaging first that I do want to mention is that I really do hate this velvety material that they've had on the Modern Renaissance and that they now have on the Subculture palette. Because again, I really don't like my palettes to look like dirty, and sometimes it's just inevitable, especially if you're like taking them with you places. So I'll usually wipe them down after I'm done using them. But the Modern Renaissance palette, you can't really do anything about it because it's so light and it has this felt on it. So it ends up getting pretty dirty, if you guys can see. I mean, it's not too bad, but it definitely has some fingerprints and stuff on there. So like I said, I have not tried this palette out for myself yet. I haven't swatched it or anything. I just got it in today, so I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for you guys and we can get a first look for ourselves. So this palette is obviously just like the Modern Renaissance. It's the same size, same amount of shades, 14 shades, has a mirror, and it has a brush as well, just like the Modern Renaissance palette. I believe all of these shades are new except for one. Fudge is an individual single shadow that Anastasia sells, but the rest of them are all brand new shades. I know a lot of people were complaining about this palette, saying they didn't really know why these shades were like put together, but personally, the shades are what drew me into the palette. I think that this palette is so unique, and I don't really have any palettes that have like this range of shades together. So I'm just gonna go ahead and zoom you guys in and we will get started on the eye look. Okay, so my eyes are already primed and set just like I would with any other eyeshadow. So I'm gonna start, and I'm going to use the brush that came in the palette as well. If I find that it's kind of like hindering the way it's applying, then I will go in with a Morphe brush. I want it to be strictly based on the eyeshadows, and I don't want to give them like an unfair chance, you know? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see how much fallout and pickup comes off of the palette itself, because that is obviously the biggest issue that's been stated with this palette, and I want to see for myself. Because from what I saw in some other videos, it did kind of look like people were kind of digging in really hard. I feel like I have a super light hand and I'll go in the same way I would with another shadow. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go into Edge, and we're gonna see how much fallout comes off of this color. Okay, well, I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm not getting as much fallout as like most people did, I think. I mean, it's definitely a lot worse than any other palette that I've had. I'll say that for sure, because I'm super light-handed. But I'm just gonna go ahead and tap this off. So when I just tapped edge off of my brush, you could definitely see a bunch of powder flying everywhere. It's definitely a very, very powdery shade, but I'm just going to go ahead and take this into my crease as a transition shade. It's really nice. So this yellow shade is definitely super pigmented, and I feel like it's blending pretty nicely. It doesn't seem like it's getting patchy, but I will say that I think that these Anastasia brushes, I think they're really nice, but I do think that they're a little bit more sparse and kind of scratchy than Morphe brushes. So I feel like this would definitely be like a factor if it was to get patchy. I mean, if it's what it takes, if it has to be that powdery to be this blendable and pigmented, then I mean, I don't know. Okay, so obviously you guys can see that it looks really pigmented. I didn't have to go over it multiple times. It just immediately was pigmented. But I don't know. I feel like right around the edge of my eyes, I feel like it's almost darker. There just wasn't a consistency in the color. I feel like on the outer edges, it looks like I had like a leftover shade on my brush. But you guys saw I literally just took it out of this packaging and I haven't dipped into any of the other shades yet. So it wouldn't make sense as to why there would be another shade that was like mixed in with it. But it does kind of look darker on the edges, and I feel like you can see it in the camera too. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys. Like I said, I'm really, really light-handed. Don't think that I'm doing this on purpose to not have it fall out. I just am genuinely super light-handed. That is the amount of pickup that I got on the palette itself, which is not normal for me personally. That might be normal for some people, but for how light-handed I am, I usually don't have that much fallout, and I usually don't have it spilling into any of the other shades. So it definitely does seem like that shade right there is as powdery as some people are saying from my experience, but I'm just going to go ahead and blow that off of my palette, and I'm going to move into the next shade. Okay, so the next shade I'm going to go into is this shade right here. It's called New Wave, and it's just a very orangey yellow color, and I'm just going to put this right on top of where I put edge. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. This is literally my worst nightmare. Okay, so again, this shade was super pigmented, but that is definitely so much pickup for me. Again, I'm going to stress it again. I am so light-handed. I never ever have this much pickup on a palette. I feel like I kind of lost the yellow, so I'm gonna kind of go in with a Morphe brush just to kind of bring back some of the yellow and blend out some of it a little bit more. Again, I feel like it did blend out really nicely, but I do want to give it a chance with a brush that I would normally use. And I'm going to go back in with edge, and I'm just going to put this up at the top. Okay, so I'm not too mad about how it looks on my face. Also, by the way, although it does have a lot of pickup on the palette itself, I really didn't get any fallout on my face thus far, thankfully. And it looks fine on my eyes, in my opinion. The yellow did kind of stick to the corner of my eye and get a little bit darker, which was kind of weird. But since I put that orange over it, you can't really tell anymore, I don't think. I think it looks fine now. So I'm just going to go in with the next color, and I really want to use one of these green shades because I was super attracted to them, but I've never done a green all over my eye before. So I think I actually need to swatch these green shades because I don't know which one I want to use, and I won't know until I see them on my arm. Okay, so those are some really quick swatches. Also, my nails are super long and grown out, so they do kind of get in the way when I'm swatching. But I definitely think I want to go in with this super dark shade right here. And this one also was known to have really, really, really bad pickup. So I definitely want to test that out and see if it's the same for myself. Okay, so I'm just going to go into this shade right here. And I'm going to pack this all onto my lid. Honestly, this shade doesn't seem as powdery as Edge or New Wave, and I feel like this side of the brush is a lot more dense and like compact, so it doesn't really seem like that one is as powdery as the first two I tried, to be honest, but we'll see. The pigment is definitely there. I mean, we can clearly see. I'm just going to go in with a clean Morphe M562 and I'm just going to blend the two shades together. And then I'm going to go into Access again and take it up a little bit higher. And then I'm just going to go in with the Morphe M433 and just blend out the edges. I don't know if you guys can see, but I feel like it's kind of splotchy. Like, it's definitely pigmented in there, but I might just suck at blending, but it looks kind of splotchy. I feel like it doesn't want to blend in that outer corner either, no matter how hard I try. I don't know, it's just super weird in the outer corners. I feel like all of the shades just get really weird out here. I'm gonna go ahead and try and layer Access over one more time, which, by the way, still no fallout on my face, which is really surprising with how much pickup is on the palette. It doesn't really make sense. So I'm gonna go ahead and quickly move on to the lower lash line before I add lashes and mascara and do the other eye. So I'm gonna dip into Fudge right here and I'm gonna take that onto my Morphe E36 brush and I'm going to put that underneath my lower lash line. So I just started finishing up and catching up in the other eye, and I just want you guys to see how patchy this looks. I keep trying to layer over and I feel like it just stays patchy. It's not blending. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some wing liner and lashes, and then I will be right back. Okay, so I just went ahead and added some lashes. I decided to skip out on the winged liner. I just went ahead and applied some Lily lashes, and these are in the style Mykonos. And then I also applied the Kylie Cosmetics liquid lipstick in the shade Exposed. So I'm going to go ahead and add a shade into my inner corner and on my brow bone, because I don't know if you guys can see, but the green did definitely just kind of spill over into my inner corner. So I'm going to go in to the palette again, and I think I'm going to take the shade Cube, which is this really pretty white iridescent shade up here. And I'm just going to put this into my inner corner. And this shade has no pickup, like, at all. So I'm just going to go in without spraying my brush first. So I actually didn't notice this beforehand, but I don't know if you guys can tell, but Cube actually has like a purple like sheen to it. Like once you get into the palette, it has more of a purple undertone to it. So it's definitely picking up on my eye. But I'm just going to go ahead and spray my brush because I feel like it isn't as pigmented as I want it. And then I'm going to go back in and try to intensify the shade. I definitely have to go in a few times with this shade and lay it over because I feel like it's not showing up even though I sprayed the brush as like intense and blinding as I would want it to. Okay, so now that I'm seeing that this shade definitely has a purpley undertone and sheen to it, I'm not going to be putting it under my brow bone. So I'm actually just going to use the same highlighter that I have on my cheekbones today, which is from the Anastasia Beverly Hills and Nicole Guerrero palette. And then I will be right back to give you guys my final review and opinion on the palette. So for my final opinion on the palette itself, the first two shades that I went in with, which are New Wave and Edge right here, those were definitely very pigmented and blendable, but again, they were super duper powdery, and I feel like I was getting a bunch of pickup on the palette, a lot more than I usually do. And Access was not as powdery as New Wave and Edge in my opinion, but it definitely was super splotchy. Now looking at my eyes, having it been a few minutes since I finished my eye makeup, I feel like it almost looks more patchy, and I feel like everything I blended or like attempted to blend like reversed itself, and I feel like it looks even blotchier and more patchy than before, which usually doesn't happen to me. I mean, I'm not the best blender out there, but I feel like I usually blend better than this. But I feel like all of the shades were super powdery, which in turn gave them quite a bit of pigment. But I feel like Cube was like extremely hardly pressed, and I feel like it wasn't powdery whatsoever, so it wasn't applying onto my eye. I had to go in multiple times just to get it to show up onto my inner corner. Fudge wasn't bad. Again, I just used it on my lower lash line, so I didn't really get a true opinion of it, but it really wasn't bad underneath my lower lash line. It blended out really nicely, and surprisingly, I really didn't get any fallout on my face, but I'm definitely going to continue to play around with it and see, because I really do like the shades in this palette, and I don't think this look is awful. Like, I think it has potential, but I definitely do think that the formulations of the shadows themselves are a lot different than the Modern Renaissance or the Master by Mario palette. I do see myself using up this palette a lot quicker than the other palettes that I own, but I definitely don't see where I would necessarily hit pan on the first time using it or on the second time using it. I don't see myself hitting pan anytime soon, hopefully. There wasn't enough pickup for me to hit pan on it. So yeah, again, I'm not really sure what happened with this palette. I hope you guys enjoyed this review and demo and first impressions anyway. If you guys like when I do first impressions like these, definitely give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you guys here. Also, if you guys want, you can hit that notification bell down below, and it will notify you guys every time I upload a new video. So thank you guys so much for watching this video again. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something new in case you are planning on buying this palette. Again, try it out for yourself. Everybody's different. Something might not work for me and it might work for you, and vice versa. So give it your own shot and have your own opinions and try it out for yourself. And I'll let you guys know if my opinion changes on it. But as of right now, I definitely don't think that it matches up to Anastasia's quality, which I'm sure with all of the reviews on the internet, Anastasia will take it into consideration and definitely work on it for future palettes to come. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching again. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys next time.